Hey guys, welcome in. It is time for Bollox Talks and Tangents. If you guys only knew what's going on behind the scenes.
And they pick on me. Holy cow.
Only knew what was going on behind the scenes. They wouldn't believe we were able to make this happen. Great job, Blake, showing off your athletic ability. But we appreciate you guys tuning in. We just came off of the Mike Lewis show. Mike Davis show, I'm sorry.
I get so confused.
I always get that mixed up. But we had a fun show over there. We have an even more fun show here. So if you guys would, make sure you hit that share button. Blake is standing up in the studio. I'm not sure what he did. Everything good? Okay, all right. He made me nervous with that move. So I'm trying to share the show. You know, I was looking up my last minute word origin because I said I wanted a particular word and I forgot to look it up in between shows. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you hit that share button. And the first thing we got to do, we got to pay some bills. First one is the St. Augustine Distillery and Citygate Spirits. Starting off 2025, you guys need to get your butt down there if you haven't seen any of these tours yet or tasting tours. They're the best in town and the best. Oh, thank you for the lozenge. That will come in handy as a prop.
That's why I gave it to you.
But they are the best. They have wonderful flavors.
Oh, yeah.
Last week we drank the peach. We got a different whiskey tonight from Texas. But you know, just that peach is just, to me, one of my favorite ones that comes out of Citygate.
I haven't tried it in the lemonade, which was your suggestion yet. I'm still big on that in sweet tea or anything else. But I'm going to make a peach pie when peaches come back into season. I'm going to use that. But peach in the lemonade is really tempting. Yeah,
no, I think you got to try it in the lemonade. Also, Meehan's Irish Pub. Reggie and the crew over there, congratulations, surviving Hell Week. You know, it was crazy downtown.
Oh, I was there.
It was absolutely crazy.
I was
Talked
there.
to Reggie a little bit this week. You know, he said they made it through, but you know, I don't think it was anything like any other December we've ever had here.
I've never seen, in my 10 years here and doing tours in the middle of Nights of Lights and everything else, I have never seen as many people in town as there were this year. It certainly seemed that way to me anyway. And by the way, if you're going to Meehan's, wait until tomorrow. They're still closed tonight. Yep. They closed for 3 days this week to do some deep cleaning. So the restaurant will be pristine.
Well, it was to take a deep breath.
Well, that too is true.
Deep cleaning.
Yeah, that was true. Give the staff a little bit of a break.
Yeah. All right. Abare, Kresge and Associates. These guys always take a deep breath when my tax returns come across their desk, but they knock it out like champs that they are. They are the best in the business. Abare, Kresge and Associates. No other CPA can even come close. St. Augustine Pirate Museum. Cindy and the crew over there, they have an amazing museum. They have over 800 artifacts, original artifacts, and they also do the Colonial Quarter. They do Bowl and Crown. They do the Taberna. I mean, they are a major part of being downtown and being a part of the downtown experience. So get over there to St. Augustine Pirate Museum if you have not been there. Kaiser's Deli and Market. I actually had it inadvertently today. I spoke for the League of Mayors, Florida League of Mayors today, and it was catered at the city of St. Augustine Beach by Kaiser's.
Outstanding. Good job, St. Augustine Beach.
I did the White Street.
Okay.
Wasn't Presto, Blake, but I did the White Street. So
nice.
All right.
Good job, Kurt.
Last but not least, and I am going to step up a little bit on this and push a little bit more on the Coquina Coast Realty. Okay. I think interest rates are going in the right direction. I think the market's going. Well, no, it's going to come back down.
Okay. Because right now, aren't they at the highest they've been in a while?
They're at a pretty high point right now.
Yeah, 6 and change, I think.
But I think it's going to come. I think it's going to be coming back down.
Good.
And it's going to get cut, and probably won't see it until about summer. But you need to start looking right now.
Sure.
So Coquina Coast Realty, 904-669-7901. That's 904-669-7901. You have any friends that are looking to buy commercial or residential, have them give me a call, and we'll work on the timing of how this needs to take place, because timing is everything in the real estate game.
And you're dealing with a man of experience who knows the town like the back of his hand.
And I've had good timing. And I've had some bad timing.
Well, there you go. So, but you know how to work it, and you know how to shepherd people through the experience.
But I learned through my bad timing to kind of anticipate when the good timing's coming. So I think the good timing's coming.
Right.
And I think everyone needs to be prepared for it.
And in a situation like that, you really need to work with somebody who's experienced, because there's so many things that you won't think of that, you need the experience to, between the permitting and whatever else, to make it all go, you really need somebody who knows what's going on.
Yeah, and I have a good lifetime of experience getting there, and hopefully I can get you in a good spot.
There you go.
So.
Before we delve into today's word origins and things, just a side note to Miss Barbara Jean. I looked it up for you. You were interested in the Teddy Roosevelt River of Doubt story. If you haven't found it yet, it's on YouTube or on PBS.
I watched it on YouTube.
Right.
So I watched,
Fascinating.
I watched it on YouTube. I only watched a 15-minute segment of it. I didn't watch the entire thing, but it's very wild.
Yeah.
What they went through and what they lost, and some of the stories may or may not have been exaggerated, but it's it's a guy. I can't throw any shade at somebody who exaggerates a story when that's what I do for a living.
Exactly.
So
and if you really are interested in it a lot, the book River of Doubt by Candace Millard is just a fascinating read, and it's so engrossing you're going to whip through it. It's almost like a thriller. It really is, because it's certainly thrilling.
Yeah, no, I mean he was just I think he was looking to kind of make a name for himself, and he already had a name. But I think Teddy Roosevelt's a guy. He was at the pinnacle of being president, and I felt like this trip made him relevant. Yeah. But I also think this trip shortened his life.
Oh, it almost killed him. He almost died on the trip.
I mean, he died in like 1919. I think it almost. I think it was because of this trip. Is where he I think it took many years off of his life. Yeah. Could have been the multitude of kids and the pets he has. Yeah. So he had like 16 or 17 pets in the White House.
Yeah, the joy of living on Long Island is the fact that Sagamore Hill and Oyster Bay Cove, which is actually not Sagamore Hill, but Oyster Bay Cove is where Julie and I got married, is a fascinating place to go visit.
All right. Whiskey of the week. All right. I don't think we've drank this. At least I don't remember drinking this on
Texas
air.
whiskey?
So it's a Texas whiskey, the oldest legal distillery in Houston, Texas. Outlaw bourbon whiskey. All right. And it's crafted in Texas, Yellow Rose Distilling. All right. The story behind it, Yellow Rose Outlaw Bourbon is handmade and pot distilled in Texas, made from 100% corn and aged in a special small American oak barrels. Small, I don't know what small barrels mean. Is it a half barrel?
Yeah, they're probably easier to move around because the big ones are, ungainly.
Yeah. So it is Outlaw Bourbon breaks traditional bourbon laws just like the outlaws of the Old West. Now, and it's got a little snap thing on it.
Yeah, a little leather.
And I don't know if you're supposed to keep that when you have this. And it's got a really cool. If you look at the top, if you do a wax stamp out of that.
Oh, there you go.
That's pretty cool.
YR.
So it's good. It's a very good bourbon. I don't remember having it on air, but obviously I did drink it at some point.
Well, yeah, we knocked through that whole bottle.
Yeah.
It must have been so good we don't remember it.
Wow.
Holy cow.
So, thank you, Texas. All right. We're talking about states, and we got word origins. We want to do our word origins first, and you gave me a lozenge.
I did.
All right. Now, Mike needed a lozenge on the last show. His voice sounded horrible, but it seemed to get better as the show went on. So I wanted to know the word origin of a lozenge from last show to this show. Did a quick look up. It's actually kind of interesting. It's from Old French. It's an Old French word from the 14th century.
1300s. Okay.
Okay. And you know what a lozenge describes as an Old French word?
No.
It's the shape of a diamond.
Interesting. Okay.
So a lozenge is something that's the shape of a diamond from the Old French word it came from.
Huh. What's the French word for diamonds?
Lozenge.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's very close. It's Very
Interesting.
close, but it's an old French word, so it's probably lost in the way I just said it completely for my Deland hillbilly accent.
There you go.
So I'm pretty sure French and Delandese doesn't translate very well.
Rebecca, this looks a little bit emerald cut. It might be a pear shape, but I think it's pretty emerald cut.
Yeah, emerald. Yeah, emerald. It's the shape of a diamond.
Yes.
So, what kind of lozenge? It is a Hall's.
Right.
It is a Hall's lozenge. So, what's your word origin?
Well, there's a lot of times where I have no idea what in the Sam Hill you're talking about.
What in the Sam Hill?
What in the Sam Hill are you talking
Is it
about?
Sam Hill or Sand Hill?
Sam Hill.
So SAM. I'm a Sam.
Yes, you are.
I always thought it was Sand Hill. I'm not going to lie.
No, this is Sam
What
Hill.
in the Sam Hill?
And there's a couple of origins for this. One of them was the fact that this Sam Hill gentleman was quite the cursorer. He would
That's
curse a lot.
bullshit.
There you go. And
He is blamed for everything.
well, his Baptist
All the
church.
Sams.
Yeah, tarred with the same brush. His Baptist church got together and they just didn't like the fact this guy was cursing. But every now and again, when they had to get exuberant about something, they would bring out Sam Hill and they'd start cursing and they'd start saying Sam Hill. Now, there's another variation of that where the Sam is less important than the Hill part because the Hill part replaced hell, and it was Sam Hill would be the devil or hell.
Okay.
So it's like, what in the hell or what in the devil are you talking about? And instead of bringing those
Sam
into the
Hill.
conversation, they'd go Sam Hill.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it became Sam Hill became the devil. Mm-hmm. Satan himself.
Beelzebub.
What in the Sam Hill are you saying, Lenny?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I like it. I like it.
That one worked for me.
And if he cusses too much, just give him a lozenge.
Exactly right. Just give me the diamond instead. I'm a big fan of emerald cuts. I like them.
You like your emerald cut?
I like an emerald cut. Yeah, I do.
All right.
They're classy.
Okay.
Yeah, timeless.
All right. Let's get off this subject.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I know. Hey, you know
Rebecca,
what?
he's joking about this.
Right. Hey, I dodged a bullet. Not only did I marry a magnificent woman who I love dearly, but
And she still likes you most days.
most days.
Yeah.
Most days. With there's it's I go 60-40 in my favor.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm going to give you most.
Yeah.
In public, she actually acts like she likes you.
More than not. Well,
Yeah.
I pay her well. I do.
I don't know if that's true or not.
But
She might pay you well.
well, that she does.
Okay.
She does. She makes me a very happy man.
Yeah.
I hope I make her a very happy woman.
Yeah. So good. You did. You hit the jackpot.
I did.
All right. We're talking about states. All right.
Yeah.
States. So you want to start with Texas? Do you have Texas on your list over there?
I got Texas. Texas was its own nation before it became a state.
Yeah,
It came in as its own nation.
And one of the things in this research today, I thought Texas was the shape of what it was when it was its own nation. Texas, in a whole, was much, much bigger.
Yeah.
But when Texas was the nation of Texas, it was much smaller.
Yeah.
Because there was disputed properties that affected Mexico and Texas. So Texas was its own nation. Was it in 1836? Is that the right year? Because I don't have notes. I don't have notes. It was its own nation, I think, for 9 years, and it became a state in 45. So 36 would make it, I think, when it became the Republic of Texas.
Yeah, Mexico gave it to us. They ceded it to us at the end of a war or so.
Yeah, but they ceded a portion of it.
45, yeah.
They ceded a portion of it, and there was still a dispute on who owned the rest of it. And it wasn't until they became a state in 45 when that dispute went away and the U.S. said, okay, this is all ours.
All right, so
back.
listen from so let's say for 10 years, March 2nd, 1836 to February 19th, 1846. So 1846, was the last year of the Republic of Texas.
All right. I thought Texas came in December. Oh, it came in 18. It was ratified.
So
It was ratified in
It was admitted.
45.
It was admitted in December of.
It was
45.
annexed by the U.S. on December 29th, 1845, and with the transfer of power took place on February 19th, 1846.
February. Oh, so it didn't. The transfer of power didn't take place. It was admitted.
It was admitted
in
as a
45.
state, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so by 45 was right. I was like, I know it was the same year as Florida. Florida was in the spring of that year.
1840, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I know Texas and Florida became states in the same year.
Right. And Bobby's right. It was the Republic of Texas.
It was a Republican.
Republic of Texas.
What did I say?
I don't know if you did.
I think I said Republic of
Yeah.
Texas.
That you did as well.
I didn't say the nation of Texas.
No.
But I didn't realize, and Blake, you have a map from about 42, I think, is 1842.
Mm-hmm.
That was really interesting. And the one section where Austin is and Dallas and a lot of the cities are was actually a part of the Republic. The portion up in the northern part that got there was a little leg that went up in there. Okay, that's not exactly that shows the disputed land. So if you look at the yellow part of that,
Right.
that is the Texas that everyone agreed, okay, that's the Republic of Texas.
Right.
If you leave it up, Blake, if you don't mind. Sorry.
Right. West Texas.
Yeah. So the western part of Texas, the cream color part, and it shows where it went up into Colorado,
Right.
what is currently Colorado. It was never called Colorado at that point. You got it, Blake? Okay.
There we go.
All right.
Got a better map.
Okay. So you see that part where it goes up into that. That was the disputed part that was Mexico claimed and the Republic of Texas claimed for those 9 years.
Why is there a Washington in Texas?
Huh?
So on this map it says there used to be a town and city named Washington in Texas.
There was a lot of
Probably a
cities.
town and city named Washington everywhere.
Yeah, there was a lot of cities named Washington that existed within the United States. But that section did not become part of Texas officially until the United States said, all right, we're going to take you that.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things I found very interesting. I always thought when Texas became a republic, it was all that. I didn't realize there was that gray area or cream color area in that map that basically Texas became a state and it was his own nation.
Well, along those lines, if you looked at the territories and things of that nature, like the Indiana Territory, virtually went to the West Coast. I mean, these territories were huge, and they were really amorphous. They had no real boundaries. They would start, east, and then everything west was just big.
Yeah.
And a lot of these territories had no real geographical boundaries, and then started getting parceled off into states later on. There were Indian Territory, the North Territory, the Indiana Territory.
Yeah.
They're all kind of wacky areas.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so that's pretty much Texas and how Texas came to be. Texas was kind of struggling as their own nation because they were constantly battling with Mexico.
Mexicans, yeah.
And Mexico, if you remember that map, everything leading to the left or the west part of that was Mexico at that time.
Right.
All the way up to the Oregon Territory.
Yeah, they had
So-
it all until we got it.
Yeah. So what state do you want to go to next?
Well, it's quite in vogue. We can talk about California because, that became a state after we beat the Mexicans in the Mexican-American War. And they said, all right, take it.
Yeah.
They're probably not regretting it today. Sadly, what a horror show that is in poor Southern California. Oof.
Yeah.
Tragedy. Absolute tragedy.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's absolutely terrible.
Yeah. And the winds kicked up again. They were hoping that the winds would stop, but the winds kicked up again. It's interesting because there's a whole process. You can't just decide to be a state. It has to be ratified by Congress. A lot of times there's an enabling act that goes out that allows whatever territory or geographic boundaries to create a state government first, and then they get ratified by Congress to become a state.
And now they become states on like July 4th. They officially are brought in on July 4th.
Okay.
So they're ratified and then they're officially brought in. I think that's what happened with the the last two in 59.
Well, the interesting thing is there was a 47-year gap between the 48th state and the 49th and 50th state. 47-year gap, 48-year gap between the last state and then Hawaii and Alaska. Actually, Alaska and Hawaii, if we're doing it chronologically.
Yeah.
And I found that interesting because for a while it was a state a year almost.
Yeah. So where are we at now? We're at like 60 plus years. So 60. What are we at? 65 years since the last 66 years since the last state.
Yeah, that was, what was it? It was 49 or 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in Alaska and Hawaii's the only state that actually was a kingdom or a monarch.
Sure.
So King Kamehameha and that. Which state did you find the most unique path to becoming a state?
Well, along with the kingdom stuff, you've got Kentucky, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, and Virginia are commonwealths, as opposed to everything else is just a generic state.
Yeah.
I thought the interesting one was...
Massachusetts is a commonwealth?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, four commonwealths: Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Kentucky.
Kentucky, yeah.
Yeah. I found it interesting, in 1820, the Missouri Compromise in 1820. They were, where
you had to add one and
yeah,
one.
we're 40 years before the Civil War still, and the Missouri Compromise was a free and a slave state. So even then there was, all this percolation about what's free and what's slave, and it was Maine came in 1820 as the free state, and then Missouri came in 1821 as a slave state.
Yeah.
But what I found interesting is later on. There were 11 states that seceded from...
Was that under Monroe?
1821...
Or was that... Okay, I think 24 John Quincy came in, so I think it was under... I think it was John Quincy Adams in 24. Was Monroe the president in 21? Because I know during the War of 1812, Madison stayed president, and there was an election, and then there had to be another election.
Yes, he was president in 1821.
Was it?
Yes.
James Monroe?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
So he took care of the Missouri Compromise.
Yeah.
Yes.
So even in the 1820s, they were vacillating on free and slave states back then. I mean, they did all the way through it in the Constitution. When they were doing the Declaration of Independence, there was the big brouhaha.
That was the big battle of of 24. Was John Quincy Adams, who was against slavery,
Right.
and Andrew Jackson, who was a Southern
Right.
gentleman, and he was for slavery.
Right.
So that battle of 24 had slavery was the biggest topic 40 years before Lincoln freedom.
Yeah.
So it's pretty wild that was that far away from it. So it wasn't one generation; it was two generations at that time.
Yeah.
So
I found it interesting too because Missouri came in as the slave state, obviously, but in 1860, when the states were trying to secede from the Union, South Carolina being the first in December of 1860, 10 more went with them: Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, Tennessee, Louisiana, and Texas. What I found interesting is Missouri, who came in as a slave state, didn't leave the Union. There were 4 slave states that never seceded. Maryland, Delaware, Missouri, and Kentucky. Maryland actually had a convention to vote on whether to secede or not. They had a secession convention. And the vote was huge. It was like 53-13 not to secede.
Yeah.
Which was interesting because that was a slave state. And Maryland was one of those weird states that never knew its identity as free or slave because the northern and the cities parts of Maryland were, more anti-slavery, and the farmers and the people in the South and more rural Maryland were big on the slave issues.
Yeah.
So I found that was interesting as well. Also found, interesting thing of how we got West Virginia.
okay, tell a story of West Virginia.
It was, it was part of Virginia, which was a slave state. And in 1803, in the middle of the Civil War, they said, yeah, we don't want to be a slave state anymore.
In 18 what?
63.
Okay, you said 1803.
Oh, I'm sorry, 63.
Yeah, I was going to say.
No, in the middle of the Civil War, that Civil War went for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. right in the middle because it started in 61.
Well, yeah. And West Virginia, split off of Virginia because they didn't want to be a slave state anymore, and they came in as a free state.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really, and in the middle of the Civil War, no less. So, you've got the Civil War, you've got millions of people dying everywhere, and, things are still going on in the background.
Well, and I look at West Virginia as, okay, these guys are the odds makers. And they're like, okay, do we...
Which way we going?
Yeah, which side are we going to pick?
Yeah.
And I think they hedged their bet there.
Well, by 1863, the war was not won by the Union at that point in time. It was still brutal.
Oh yeah, no, it was very brutal, but I still believe at that point the backing of what was there, because the war machine was in the North.
Yes, absolutely.
It was the South didn't build up their arms the way they could have if they were prepared for it, because we're talking about an argument that's been building up for 40 years.
Yeah.
So I think West Virginia picked the right side. And
Yes.
They might have been the first odds makers in the United States.
There you go.
So
They hitched their wagon to a star.
yeah. But some of the other interesting things. Do you have Florida on your list at all?
No.
Okay.
1845, 1821, a territory. 1845, we got Florida after the end of the Revolutionary War.
No.
Yeah.
No, the British or the Spanish got it back.
Yeah, Spanish got it back. Yeah.
We're not the Spanish.
No. Well,
You said we got it after the Revolutionary War. The Spanish got it after the Revolutionary
right, and then
War.
we got it back in 1821.
1821 because
Right, became a territory.
because Spain owed the United States a debt, and that's how they paid off their debt. They owe money to the United States.
Okay.
So it was Spain. The U.S. helped Spain. I think maybe it was against the French or somebody like that.
Possibly.
Like there was some financial. How we got Florida from Spain was it was handed over to us to cover a debt.
Right, but why would we be helping Spain against France, where France was so helpful to us during the Revolution?
Well, I'm not sure exactly who it was, but I know Spain owed the U.S. money.
Okay.
And that's how we got Florida. Spain's like, okay, we can't afford that. You guys want this. You take Florida, and we wipe away the debt.
I got it right here.
Blake's on.
Hey.
The U.S. acquired Florida from Spain through the Adams-Onis Treaty, also known as the Transcontinental Treaty, which was signed in 1819 and ratified in 1821.
All right, but does it say anything about the debt?
Yes, so it's basically because they were because of the Napoleonic invasions in mainland. So they were losing money because of that. So they didn't have any resources to maintain its colonies in the Western Hemisphere.
Right.
Yeah. So I thought it had something to do with
does it
France.
say what the debt was? How much was Florida worth?
Let me double check that.
Yeah, I knew it had something to do
Right.
with the Napoleonic and the debt. So sometimes stuff gets stuck in there.
Yeah, right. And then you got to
You got
Get it
to
out.
shake it out,
Right.
and it works out pretty well for me.
So Spain received no compensation, but the U.S. agreed to assume liability for $5 million in damage done by American citizens who rebelled against Spain.
There you go. So
$5 million.
yeah,
Go figure.
That's a good land purchase.
I would say. Yeah.
So I mean, Alaska's still, I think, a great land
Yeah,
purchase.
well,
so
it's by the size and
Yeah.
yeah.
per acre, it was like
Yep.
a penny an acre or
Yeah.
something. But then Florida didn't become a state until 1845.
1845, yeah.
1845.
1845.
So
Yeah. Another interesting one, you got North Dakota, South Dakota. Came into the Dakota Territory. Whoever decided to split them into two states, North and South, pretty much big rectangles.
wasn't Wyoming and Montana a part of that split?
Of the
Dakotas?
that I don't know.
I thought it was 4 separate states that were involved in that Dakota split. And the Dakota tribe is what they're named after.
Right.
But I think at some point Wyoming and Montana were mixed into how the Dakotas were split up as a territory. And even the Dakotas at one point were considered the Iowa territories.
Right. That's what I said. We think of the states in the Midwest, Indiana, Iowa,
Yeah.
and when they were territories, they went forever. They went forever. It was fascinating. Yeah. Wyoming came in 1890, South Dakota, North Dakota, and Montana in 1889. But what I found interesting about North and South Dakota, we were talking earlier, Grover Cleveland was the president, and he had the papers on his desk signing their the legislation to make them admit them as states, and he kept shuffling them back and forth because he didn't want anybody to see which state became the state first.
Yeah.
And it ended up being North Dakota.
Okay.
Yeah, North Dakota became the state before. It's like, it's like when somebody gives birth to twins. Hey, I'm older than you. I was born 30 seconds ahead of you.
Yeah, and then 6 days later, Montana.
Yeah.
So, and then Wyoming.
Wyoming was a year
came
later.
in the next year.
Yeah.
So from what I understand, so basically,
Hey, Jenny.
so the codes in Montana and Wyoming were connected until 1861. They split off into like the Wyoming Montana connection, then the Dakota connection. They were actually Wyoming created its border in 1868.
Okay. Okay. So Wyoming, but they were all together.
They were together at
point.
one point,
Okay.
but during the Wyoming, during the North
During
Dakota
the time they became states and stuff like that.
yes, so Wyoming and Montana were already split by the time the North and North South Dakota were split up into states.
Yep. And Bobby asked this, and I do have this one on my list. Bobby is about Utah,
The Beehive State.
So we'll get to Utah in just a little bit, but I think Wyoming is interesting to me,
Right.
because Wyoming was a lot of men, a lot of cowboys, and a lot of this stuff to attract men and to look
Women.
more attractive to the United States. They started giving women the rights to vote early. So, and Blake, I believe the first House of Representatives or senator that was a woman was in Wyoming, and it was before the United States had given rights to women to vote.
Yeah, so it was 1914 when Montana gave the right to vote for women. Then 19 for men was 1919.
1919, the first woman.
Was it Montana or Wyoming?
Who was the first woman to represent in Congress?
Let me double check that.
I got a bookmark of her when Julie and I were in Washington a couple of years back. I got a bookmark from my sister, the radical feminist.
It was Montana.
Yeah.
It was Montana. Okay, so it was Montana, not
No,
Wyoming.
Wyoming.
Okay.
It was Jeanette Rankin.
Okay, and what year
Yeah.
was that?
I believe it was. Let me double check. 1917.
And
1970.
she kept the job for a while.
And she actually dropped out. So it's basically her first term was 1917 to 1919. She then came back 1941 to 1943.
Okay. Yeah. So, but women didn't have the right to vote until actually, I think it was ratified 19. They could vote in 20.
20.
In the 20 election. So that was the first 20 election. And we talk about the first woman president being Wilson's wife because he
Right.
had a stroke.
Edith, yeah.
And when that was signed, he had had the stroke already.
Yeah.
So makes for a very
just-
interesting.
Just sign here, Woodrow.
Yeah, right here, right here.
Put your X.
All right. What other state you got that we can talk about, and then we're going to do our little commercial break, and then we'll come back to some other ones because I do want to talk about Utah and Colorado. I have some interesting stories with those.
Well, I'm good here. I went into the Articles of Confederation and then the Constitution to see how the process goes.
Okay.
Because, when they did the Articles of Confederation in 1777, nothing happened until it became enforced after all the 13 colonies ratified the Articles of Confederation, and then that went into effect. And that stayed in effect until 1787, when 87, 89, I think, until when the U.S. Constitution came in March of that year, and then everything shifted over to the Constitution from the Articles of Confederation. So that was part of the process of what you had to do to become a state. You had to set up a government first and create your state government and legislatures and things like that. Then you apply to the federal government, somebody would pass a legislation, and then the president would sign it and say, "Okay, now you can play. And we'll put another star on the flag."
Yeah. and a lot of talk is about the 51st state and Puerto Rico.
Oh, I thought we were talking about Greenland.
Not Greenland.
Okay.
Not Greenland. Puerto Rico. They'll become a territory. Greenland will become a territory before it becomes a state.
Right. Or Washington, D.C.
I think California was one of the few states that went straight from California to being a state without being a territory.
Right.
So usually you're a territory before you become a state. The territory of Puerto Rico, they've had several votes on it. I think they've had 3 or 4 votes on becoming a state. I saw one that was very close, but the other ones they kept voting it down because they didn't want to pay federal taxes.
Right.
Yet they still want to complain about not getting federal support.
Right.
What's your thoughts on that? You're a Democrat. I believe I consider myself in the middle there.
We declared you purple this afternoon.
I'm a moderate.
Right.
I'm going to call myself a moderate because there's not really. I don't live by a Democrat or Republican standards.
I'm a social democrat and a fiscal conservative, which is very confusing because having been a small business owner for as long as I was, things made me crazy. If you ask my wife, everything makes me crazy. But
I would fit in that mode. Kind of was what would be the old blue dog Democrat.
Right.
So
it's not a bad thing. I see. I have a hard time with states' rights. I think, I'm a federalist when it comes right down to it. I think the fact that you can, cross a state border and have an educational syllabus that teaches one thing and then go back across the border to another state and have an educational syllabus that teaches something else. Or, the speed limits is trite. But I just think there needs to be national standards on things, particularly in education, which is never going to win any popularity contest because somebody's going to want to teach this.
But the federal government doesn't pay for that.
Well, it's property taxes. But yeah, I don't have a problem with who is or isn't paying for it. I have a problem with the fact that
I have a problem with that.
What?
If they're going to tell me what to do, and they're not paying the bill,
well, pay the bill.
I got a problem with it.
I
got a problem with that.
I understand that, but I have a problem with the fact that you can learn one thing in one state and it's contrary to what you're going to learn in another state. And it's only getting worse, by the way.
Well, and as far as I've noticed in the United States, you are free to move to that state.
I understand that.
So that's where my and I'm being a little contrary with you.
No,
right
I appreciate that because
I have a problem with the federal government telling me what I should teach my child here.
Well, then go to New Hampshire.
But they're not contributing
right
to how that's getting paid for that education. So the person who's paying the bills should have say, in my opinion.
Well, I take umbrage to that because in Florida now, where charter schools are running rampant, and they do a great job in a lot of places, but many of them are parochial. And, we're paying to support parochial schools. And I have a problem with that.
Well,
because,
that's because of the vouchers.
Right. But you know what?
But
you want to send your child to a private school? Send them to a private school. But you're diminishing public education.
It's not equal to equal.
Well, you're sucking money out of public education.
No, they're contributing money that they're not using to that level.
I don't know how the dollars are falling out because now Florida's being very generous now.
No, they're it's not dollar to dollar what goes into an education of an individual child in a public school. They get a small percentage if they want to send their kid to a parochial school. And I'm not a religious guy.
No.
But it's not dollar to dollar, and it actually saves the public school system money by doing that. So I see that as being physically responsible of saying, okay, you want to handle that on your own? We're going to give you a little piece of this.
Right, and then go pay for it yourself.
And you're going to pay for yourself, and we're going to give you a little piece of it, and it's still going to save us money per child on the public school system. So I don't have a problem with that scenario. If it was dollar for dollar, I'd probably have a problem with it. So it's a percentage that they get for the parochial schools. And if that's what you want to do, and you still have to pay above that, what you have, and you're taking that, I can live with that trade-off.
Okay.
So I understand where you're coming from, like, hey, leave the money into the system.
Right.
But I think with the system that they have in place with the vouchers, all right, we'll give you a little nudge that way, but it's still a net win on the public school system. So you don't see that, you don't see the numbers that way.
I understand what you're saying.
You understand the Troy math with it, or
no? I understand.
Like, do you understand the Troy math with it, or did you fall asleep on that conversation?
I've fallen a little bit asleep on it, but I am here to help you if you have any questions that you want me to research. Is there anything you want me to Google search right now?
No,
Come on.
I don't think we need to do it.
I don't think I can get that deep into
Right,
it.
and I don't think we can save it for another topic.
No,
another show.
Blake, what I'm saying is I don't know exactly what the percentage is for the voucher.
And how much the vouchers are vis-a-vis what the tuition is.
How much is per child expense. But the way I understood it is the per child expense, they give you a little bit if you want to go here, but still you're contributing to
and I'm sure the vouchers don't cover what a full tuition would be in some of these schools.
No, they don't come close.
And yes, Kathy, Puerto Rico does have their own government.
Yes.
So
they have a governor, which is the lowest paid governor in pretty much all the territories.
So
it's only like 40,000.
And they have the same power structure that Cuba apparently does these days.
Yeah.
So right now they're saying the vouchers are around 8,000 per year that they can be used for private students. The average cost of a private elementary school in Florida is around $10,592 per year. The average cost of a private
expensive.
Private secondary school is around $11,829 per year.
Yeah.
And an average cost of a private four-year college is $45,156 per year.
Yeah, but the vouchers don't apply
good job
to
getting
college.
all those
but
scholarships you got.
Actually, those tuition seems
out
a lot less than I would have expected for private schooling. Honestly,
Yeah.
So the voucher's taking a big chunk out of it.
In Florida, it's much cheaper than what it is in
that's for sure.
New York. It's much cheaper for private schools.
Yeah, the voucher is taking a big chunk of it, so it's very beneficial if you're going to send your child to a private school that you're taking 3/4 of the tuition is paid for by the state of Florida.
Yeah,
Blake, on the Puerto Rico side, if you don't mind doing a quick research on how much the governor of Puerto Rico gets paid on an annual basis, I think it's only about $50,000. It's pretty ridiculous how cheap it is, and how much they pay on average. Private school tuition is what Blake just flashed up.
In Puerto Rico?
That was the average cost of private school per state. So we're like around like 10,000. Think New York's like around 20,000.
Okay.
Think like North Dakota is like around 5. Like 5K. But Puerto Rico is around 70,000 a year for.
That's what the governor gets paid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what were we asking about? How much citizens?
How much do they pay on average in income tax? Where ours, I think, is about 15 to 20%.
What's that? I'm sorry.
On income tax. I think they only pay like 3% in income
in Puerto
tax
Rico?
in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Let's see. The average is around. Let's try to see.
So, I mean, the reason the infrastructure is so bad in Puerto Rico is they chose not to be a part of the federal income tax system.
And it's come back to bite them in the ass.
And it's coming back to bite them, and their ad valorem taxes are ridiculously low.
So the average is around $2,732.65 to health, $297.96 to government, $52.80 for immigration and border control, and $14.97 for federal prisons.
Does it give a percentage of income tax? A percentage of income tax that they pay annually?
Let me check.
Hi, Robin.
So usually they don't give a percentage, but the total taxes for everything, according to this, is around $10,080. The U.S. average is around $13,367, so they're below.
Okay, they're closer than.
So it's more than you thought.
They're closer than I thought. I'm not going to lie. They're closer than I thought. And is that income tax or is that also
that's federal income tax only?
Federal income tax. They're way closer than I thought.
Right.
I thought it was significantly broader.
Yeah.
Than that. So I it's still lower, but it's only like.
So
20-30%
yeah,
lower.
so on this website here, this is from the 2022 federal taxes.
Yeah.
It says we here in Florida we average like around $14,873 in federal taxes.
Yeah, so it's still 20.
Right.
It's 20 to 30%, almost 25% lower.
Do you want to guess the highest federal taxing territory or state?
I'm gonna say highest as far as income tax.
Yes.
Including their state tax.
Yes.
I'd go with the
I
burning
got to
one.
start with California, and New York, and New Jersey.
Yeah.
So California and New Jersey are up there, but DC is number one with they pay an average of $23,000 in taxes. The lowest is
And they're not even a state.
yeah. The lowest is Mississippi with 7,700, 7,712.
Okay. So
Washington is the highest. D.C.
Yes.
Interesting.
Washington D.C.
Right.
is the highest, but that's because that's probably also equally the highest income earners.
Yeah.
Because the way that has nothing to do with percentage.
Right.
So if you can find that exact same stat in percentage, Blake, I would like to see what that percentage looks like, because I think federal income tax in California, you have to do a plus like 14% on top of the federal income tax for the state of California. And it's like 13 and 13 in New Jersey and New York. They add that extra. So if you're at a 26% tax rate in California,
Right.
you got to add 14 on top of it.
I got it right here. All right, let's see.
see what
You mean for state tax?
For state tax,
Oh, okay,
14%
fine. Yeah,
is like
yeah.
the state tax.
Yeah.
The state tax is on top of it. And when Trump was in the first time, that's why they got so mad, is they were given breaks on their federal tax because of the state tax that they were paying.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's the whole
you want to be a
conversation.
part of the country, pay the country
Well,
tax.
that's the whole problem now is in, less California, but New York, New Jersey, maybe partially Massachusetts. They're talking about the salt tax, which is the state and local taxes that used to, there was a threshold that you could deduct that from your federal income tax, and property taxes are so high in New York and New Jersey that people were able to deduct them and diminish the amount of federal taxes they paid, and that went away. So you've got the Long Island delegation in particular, and I would presume Westchester is piggybacking on it, but it's been the Long Island delegation that's been fighting to renew the salt deductions because people are getting creamed because their state taxes are so high.
Yeah. And, if you want to be part of the government, be a part of the government. Don't be half-assing it.
Yeah, well, you got to pay for it.
All right. Blake,
by that same
where are we at
token-
with the percentage that way?
Okay, I thought I was able to get a percentage of it, but let's see.
It was the wrong stat.
It just kept giving me dollar amounts, so
Okay.
that's fun.
But to your point, you want to be part of the government, don't get into the conversation of who gives more money to the federal government than they get back from the federal government. Alabama and Mississippi are living on the fact that New York and California and Massachusetts and New Jersey are sending much more to the federal government than they're taking out of the federal government.
California
right.
no longer is.
Well, okay.
California no longer is. It's
Not this-
reversed.
yeah.
Texas and Florida are the number one givers, and if you do the deficit of what they get back. So, we're population wise 2 and 3.
Right.
California is on the other side of that now, and
Okay.
I believe there's only 7 states
That send
that
more than get more.
send more than get more.
Okay.
And I think California's
out of that now?
I think California dropped out of that.
Interesting.
So
Okay, I wouldn't expect that.
yeah.
Troy, who helps keep us on the air?
Huh?
Who helps keep us on the air?
Oh my gosh, we have an amazing sponsor
Don't we?
lineup right here.
Don't we?
All right, Coquina Coast Realty, give me a call, 904-669-7901. That's 904-669-7901. You know where to find me on Facebook at any time. Kaiser's Deli and Market. Oh,
Ooh,
such
good,
good food.
good.
All right,
Try the pastrami.
I like the Bollox with the pastrami and turkey together with it pressed. little bit of hot peppers on it.
Oh yeah.
So it's to me that's my favorite
And
sandwich out there.
smart man, because it's a little chilly outside.
Yeah.
And he's doing soups.
Woo!
Yeah, oh yeah.
All right.
Make some nice soup that man does.
What's the soup? What's the soup that you would suggest?
He does a nice chicken soup, chicken noodle soup. He does a spinach and gnocchi soup. He does some good stuff.
Yucky.
Gnocchi.
New York.
Not
yucky.
Not yucky with a
Not
Y.
yucky.
Gnocchi with an N,
Gnocchi.
the GN.
Oh, okay. A GNO. Okay.
Right.
All right. Gnocchi.
Gnocchi. Right.
All right. St. Augustine Pirate Museum. They are amazing over there. Ask for Captain Meehan if you're doing a tour. So much fun. You can spend the day there, and you'll absolutely have a blast. Abare, Kresge and Associates, the best CPAs in town. Go over there if you think you're starting a business and you want some advice. Go see these guys at Abare, Kresge and Associates.
Yep.
Meehan's Irish Pub. Tell them about the Irish cream.
I love my Meehans. I really do. The Irish cream, they make it fresh every day. It is decadent. It is beyond dessert. It is delicious. It is thick. It is creamy. It is Irish whiskey. It's just good. It's a great way to end the meal because, if you're full already, well, it's a little bit more richness. It really is great. Every now and again, I'll get the Irish cream and throw a shot of Kahlua into that. Woo! That's a combination for the ages. That is just delicious.
Yeah.
It really is. And the food there is fabulous. Key lime pie is one of the best key lime pies in St. Augustine.
I have a friend who goes, I don't eat bar food. But you know where he eats bar food?
Meehan's. There you go.
Because it's not bar food. It's restaurant.
No, that's real good food.
It's
yeah.
restaurant food that is at the highest level.
And there's a recently tweaked menu as well.
Okay.
Reggie changed the menu again a little bit.
All right.
So it's good
Did the
stuff on
tenders
there.
come back that aren't on the children's menu? Yeah, that's the hack. Go with the children's menu.
Yep.
Order two.
Right.
All right. St. Augustine Distillery and Citygate Spirits. These guys are on our sponsor row. Citygate Spirits is amazing. They do some flavors that you're just not going to see anyplace else. So happy to have them involved with us. And we do have some room for sponsors out there. If some of you guys listening know somebody that can benefit from getting their business out there, have them give me a call, and we'll take care of them and make sure we show them a lot of love. But we do only accept sponsors that we believe in.
That's it.
So,
that we can personally support, and we do. As you can tell by when we talk about all these, they're very, very familiar. They're good to us, and we're good to them.
Yeah.
I treat my sponsors well. As a matter of fact, I've got friends coming into town next week. I don't think they've been to the Pirate and Treasure Museum, and they're about to.
Oh yes, yeah, they need to go.
And my blessed wife is going to say, "Been there, done that, a lot. Have a nice time.
Yeah.
I'll take the afternoon off."
See, me and Maeve go a lot.
Yeah.
And every time I go, I try and hit a different pirate because they have the interactive board. And she sits on my lap. I read it to her, and we go shoot off the cannons. We sit in the back room, and because you're below deck in the back room, which is very interactive. So we really, really enjoy the Pirate Museum.
And hang on one second. Just a side note, Kathy, I haven't forgotten about you. I've got 3 books that I'm in the middle of, and Book of God is there, but it's 600 pages, and I'm getting through it. It starts in an interesting place because it doesn't start in Genesis. It starts, well after Abraham is already old. Wow. But I will get through it, and I will give you my book report. I promise.
That's funny because you and I are both agnostic.
Yeah.
We're not religious people. You're reading the Book of God, and I'm reading five ways to get in heaven.
So we'll work it out one way.
Yeah, Mitch Album. So us agnostics, we're not against everything. It's just funny. We're both in books that are associated with that.
Yeah, we're spiritual. We're just a little disorganized as far as religion is concerned.
All right, we have a request to talk about Utah from Bobby.
Yeah.
And Utah is very unique.
Yes.
Because of the Mormons, and the Mormons do control Utah. And because of the Mormons, to get into the United States, the Mormons had to change their religion. All right? I don't think that happened anywhere else in the country. They had to denounce polygamy. And it took 2 years after they denounced polygamy before they were admitted into the United States.
And I don't know how many people realize that, like a lot of other religious denominations, the Mormons were brutally persecuted. I mean, they were. It was legal to shoot a Mormon.
Yeah,
it was not a good thing.
The murders that took place in the mid 1800s against Mormons, they were probably outside of the black race. They were probably in the United States in the mid 19th century the worst treated group that I can think of. Well, Native Americans. I'm sorry. There's so many we can throw.
Oh yeah, no,
We're-
we're indiscriminate as far as that's
Yeah,
concerned.
we're not great when I
Yeah,
go to
no.
make that statement. We don't have a good track record on
No.
that. Hopefully, we're getting better.
Well, that's why they had to go as far west as they could to where there were no other people around. I mean, the Great Salt Lake in Utah, there was nothing there when they got there.
So,
You know?
But the Mormons had to denounce polygamy in order to get into the United States, as it was a trade-off. And who was president in 1896, Blake? It was
Was that just before McKinley?
McKinley was voted in 96. Who
Yeah.
was right before McKinley?
In 1896.
Was it Garfield?
No.
No, it might have been-
So you're saying it wasn't 1896?
Yeah.
Then it was McKinley.
McKinley
Was it
in
96?
January of 96?
Yes.
Okay, so he came in.
Okay.
He came into the election
Because
in 92.
because 1896 was an election year, so it had to have been McKinley.
McKinley won in 96, but it was in January of 96.
Yes, so it was McKinley.
McKinley, so he was in his second term.
Oh, so he
When-
was a two-term president. Then, yeah, he was
Yeah,
there.
he was a two-term president.
Because inaugurations were still in March
Okay.
back then.
Yeah.
Now, interesting.
Oh wait!
January 4th of 1896.
Stop. It was Grover Cleveland.
Grover Cleveland was still there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
So he did North Dakota, South Dakota, and Utah,
Well,
among others.
I don't think he was there in 89. I think that was in between his terms. In 1889.
1889. That was Benjamin Harrison.
Oh, I thought
Harrison.
we had it at Grover Cleveland before. Okay.
He went out in the election of 88, so he was there until March of 89. But North Dakota didn't come in until November of 89.
Right. Both
So Benjamin Harrison, the
Okay.
grandson,
Right.
was there for North Dakota.
Who also might have been the first state funeral.
Oh, really?
I think so. It was one of the Harrisons.
Yeah,
So I
and
guess
today,
it was.
today we
Right, Jimmy
laid,
Carter,
We laid to
absolutely.
rest Jimmy Carter.
Rest in peace, you great man.
Yeah.
What a human being he was.
So, and Kathy said she read 5 Ways to Get into Heaven.
Yeah.
Now-
And I don't know if have you read
Not yet.
Tuesdays with Maury?
No.
Okay, Mitch Albom he's a sports writer, but his book Tuesdays with Maury is, I mean, it's a true tearjerker.
Yeah.
And the movie with Jack Lemmon crushed that. if you don't want to read it, rent the movie Tuesdays with Maury with Jack Lemmon.
Okay.
So, right, like, have you ever heard of any of those books that I just
I have
talked
not.
about?
I have not.
All right, and the reason I have been guilted into reading 5 Ways
Okay.
into Heaven, because I was talking about Mitch Albom and how well I liked his liking, and one of my veterans at Veterans Village
Right.
gifted me the book.
Okay.
So I have to read the
Now
book.
you do, for sure.
It wasn't an option. I have to read the book.
So Utah just updated their flag, their state flag, and put a beehive on it.
Yep.
I don't know how recent that was, but relatively recently.
Yeah.
So for the Beehive State.
Yep. And Bobby said there are seagulls around the Great Salt Lake, hundreds of miles from the ocean. And they were named for the Utes,
Right.
So the Indians.
Right.
Well,
Well,
we're
that's
talking
the-
about Indian names, and,
Right.
and,
Yeah,
and
we're doing that
and
earlier,
those things.
yeah.
So,
Well, that's how Brigham Young, that was the sign from God that he thought was the answer. When they saw the seagulls, that's when they stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, they would have been going. They would have gotten stuck at the Sierra Madre, Sierra Nevada, on the way to.
yeah, they
Yeah.
would have been
And
caught up
California.
in those
Yeah.
mountains.
So this is the new flag here.
Okay. And it's
Okay,
got
yeah.
the beehive right in the
Yep.
center.
Right, with the beehive.
With the
'cause it's
mountains there.
It's
Yeah.
the
That's
Beehive
good.
State, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I do always wonder about Utah though. What I always wonder. What happens if Joe Montana just waltz through the campus at BYU? What would happen to him?
Joe Montana?
Yeah.
Because of what when he was in Notre Dame?
No, because of Steve Young.
Oh, well, Steve Young. Steve Young.
He mentored him.
Steve Young got that monkey off his back. He's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And Steve
Yeah,
Young.
Steve Young had
was a great grandson of Brigham Young.
Okay.
So he went to Brigham Young, and he was a
no
great
choice.
grandson of
He was a
Brigham
legacy. He was literally a legacy.
Young. He was 100% a legacy.
He was the legacy.
So,
And he had a pretty groovy football career as well.
I think he did okay. They're both
it
Hall
was-
of Famers.
Right,
I do.
Both Hall of Famers.
But controversial take though. Quick controversial tangent. I do think Steve Young's a better quarterback.
He had a couple individual years, but it all comes down to rings.
Yeah.
So,
on.
yeah.
So you're saying Bill Russell is better than Wilt Chamberlain?
Yes.
Oh,
Bill Russell controlled Wilt Chamberlain head to head, and if you go to those stats, how many games Russell won against Chamberlain, it's not even close. Because Chamberlain was all about the stats. He wasn't about team, and basketball is a team sport.
Yep.
So, people can say what they want. Best small forward, in my mind, is always going to be Larry Bird.
Okay.
wow.
So, and he wasn't small.
As opposed
But he played
to Irvin.
Best Irvin Johnson.
Yeah.
Oh, he was a point guard.
Point guard.
He was a point guard.
I don't know nothing about basketball.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. So he was a point guard. So, and-
Wait, okay then. So you're saying Larry Bird's a better small forward than LeBron?
How can you call LeBron James a small forward? The guy's 17 feet tall.
LeBron, I feel, is a hybrid player, so you can't
Right.
really give him a position.
Yeah.
Because he played the point forward position similar to what Pippen did, and that's why his assist record, or his assist totals are so much higher. So LeBron is, to me, the most athletic, skilled basketball player I've ever seen live, and that includes Michael Jordan. And people call Michael Jordan the GOAT. I'm not so sure that's true. And people argue with me about that because I think one-on-one, LeBron probably beats every other player out there one-on-one because of his size, speed, and ball handling ability.
And some of the players that are out now if they have the longevity, they may actually eclipse both of them, which is not going to be easy to do by any stretch of the imagination.
LeBron's going to be tough because of his longevity.
Right. I mean, the man's 40 years old, and he's still playing at he's slowing down a touch, but he's still playing at an exceedingly high level.
He's playing at an incredibly high level. I'd still put him as a top 10 player in the NBA at age 40.
LeBron, absolutely.
All right. We're at the end of our show.
It goes so fast.
I wanted to talk about Colorado and how it was an accumulation and how the gold rush made it happen with Pikes Peak, because everyone knows about the California
Right.
gold rush and all those things. But the gold rush at Pikes Peak was very legitimate, and it used to be a part of the Kansas, Utah, and New Mexico and Nebraska. It was 4 states. It wasn't never its own territory. And the gold rush basically created Colorado. Right. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, but we missed it, and there's a lot of stuff out there on this topic.
We didn't even talk about Four Corners, where those states meet and things of that nature.
Yeah, there's so much stuff out there on this topic. So
and we didn't even get to the Pacific Northwest.
No, the Oregon territory.
Yeah.
It wasn't Washington. There was no such thing as Washington.
No.
It was the Oregon territory. Right. So, guys, we want to say thank you. Support our sponsors out there. Thank you so much for a great conversation we had with you online. This is Bollox Talks and Tangents, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.